There's a poll that was conducted by RMG August 5th, 2025. If Netanyahu visits the U.S., should the U.S. arrest him? 46% said yes, 32% said no, 22% unsure. We got a lot of work to do, folks. That 22% needs to be, that 22% needs to go up to the yes bracket ASAP. All right, let's get to world leaders condemn Israel for the most obvious crimes against humanity. I'm going to go wash my hands and pee real quick.
Now, international opposition continues to grow over Israel's decision to take over Gaza City, with the UN Security Council set to hold an emergency meeting on Sunday. The Secretary General called the military escalation dangerous, saying that it risks many lives, including those of the remaining Israeli hostages. The foreign ministers of Britain, Italy, Germany, Australia and New Zealand issued a joint statement strongly rejecting Mr. Netanyahu's plan to expand the war in Gaza. They said it will aggravate the catastrophic humanitarian situation, endanger the lives of the hostages and further risk the mass displacement of civilians, adding any attempts at annexation or of settlement extension violate international law. Now, Israel has defended the decision to escalate its military expansion in Gaza, with the Defense Minister, Israel Katz, saying international partners who condemned Israel would not weaken their resolve to defeat Hamas. Now, currently, Israeli forces have control of around 75% of the territory. The new plan is to take over Gaza City, home to around 1 million Palestinians. Let me just show you the satellite picture, which shows the density of the area 2 years ago. This image, though, was taken recently, and it shows some parts completely destroyed in this war, while others remain largely intact. Now, Israel doesn't allow international journalists, including the BBC, into Gaza, so we have to rely on trusted freelancers within the territory. John Donaldson, then, has sent this report from Jerusalem.
Homeless and hungry, Gazans woke up to the news today that this war is far from over. As if they needed telling. More Israeli airstrikes, and in Gaza City, the threat of another ground invasion. What is the point of a ground invasion? Nafez Ajour argues. There's nothing left that you haven't wiped out. There's nothing left, and there's no food either. With many already living in tents, Netanyahu's plan, up to 1 million people here, will be ordered to flee for the umpteenth time.
Gaza City is not safe. The north is not safe. Where should we go? Do we throw ourselves into the sea?
For Gazans, the destruction and the suffering is endless. Just 50 miles away, but a world apart in Jerusalem, Israelis were stocking up for the weekend. Hundreds of thousands of troops will be needed to capture Gaza City. But the people we spoke to here said there was no choice.
What's the alternative? What should they do instead? Have we tried making deals? Yes. It's not doing anything. Has there still...
Dude, I love hearing the organic Middle Eastern, Levant accent in real time. I love that. What's the alternative? It's crazy. Hitler Youth is right. 100%. It's just insane. It's so ass, dude. They're on Birthright. See the lanyards. Oh my god. Oh my god. Bro, who the f does Birthright in the middle? Birthright in general is already up. But they were oh, now is the time to do it. You know what I mean? Better late than never, I guess. Right at the heat of the... That's something that's gonna live with you forever, you know? Native of East Palestine, Ohio.
Attacks? Yes. Has there still been casualties on both sides? Yes. So it needs to be finished. That's it.
We need to finish now all the terror. If the name is Hamas, now we must.
Dude, that's so funny. This dude is a unk, bro. He looks identical. Half of the Uber drivers we met today. It's so crazy. You know he's Arab, too. I mean, Jewish, but Arab Jewish. That's not an unk, that's a Nazi. No, I'm just saying that, this is the insidious nature of fascist ideology. You know, you got unks Arab unks advocating for the wholesale of dudes that look exactly like him over an imaginary boundary that was placed. Like, there ain't no way you'd know until he opened his mouth. You would never know.
Not need. We must now.
This decision by the Prime Minister is divisive. We found plenty of people here who back him, but polls show the majority of Israelis.
Arab is not a race. We do not claim these people. They are not Arab. Stop saying they're Arab. It's revolting, frankly. I mean, they literally are. What are you talking about? They're from Arab countries. They just happen to be Jewish. And now they're advocating for the ethnic of all Arabs, all Palestinians, but just Arabs as a whole, really.
Think the best way to get the remaining hostages home is ending the war and a ceasefire deal. So this decision is a gamble.
Again this weekend, there will be mass protests by hostage families and their supporters. Many argue that if their loved ones don't get out of Gaza alive, their Prime Minister will be partly to blame. John Donnison, BBC News, Jerusalem.
OK, let's speak to Joel Onyeke, who is Head of Operations in Gaza for Save the Children. Joel, hello, welcome to the programme. First off, what's your reaction to...
Also, chatters need to calm down. That person is Arab. The person who's reacting is like me saying, is like a Latino person responding to me, being like, Nicolas Fuentes is not Latino, bro. He's not Hispanic. Call him something else. He's not one of us. That's basically it, okay? Everybody needs to understand. That's what that person is saying. And it's like, I mean, they are literally, they are, like, that dude is 100% an Arab Jew, right? 100%. And without, like, hearing him speak, you would just not know.
The plan by Israel to take control of Gaza City. What are the implications for your team on the ground?
Well, we know what military expansion and military occupation means for Palestinian children. We have seen military expansions in Gaza over the past 2 years, as well as military occupation, and we know the harm, that children face as a consequence of that. I think what we currently need in Gaza is a definitive ceasefire in place. Children in Gaza have been paying, the highest price for this unrelenting war that they have played no part in. Many children have been killed by bombs and bullets, and, at a very unprecedented rate. And, children have lost their homes, loved ones, and, the safety of which they have a right to. They are dying of hunger and diseases. And the same applies to even my colleagues on the ground here. I think what we actually need more than ever is a definitive ceasefire in Gaza.
You say that children are paying the highest price. Just remember, children, this segment of the population, of which we're seeing some of the worst fatalities. What is it about the population in Gaza?
Yeah, children are particularly vulnerable to the effects of explosive weapons. Their bodies are oftentimes thrown harder and further away by the blast. Their bones,
That's such a crazy... I get what he's saying, but it's like a crazy statement to even hear,
Bend more. This also increases the chance of long-term disabilities for children. They have, less blood to give or to lose, and they are very unlikely to see medical or special care given the decimated health systems within Gaza currently. So speaking from that perspective is why I flag children, and working for an organization that is centered around children. We hear the cries of these children. We see the mental, impact of the war on them. We see the level of malnutrition. We see the level of hunger on the ground, and children, once again, are the most impacted.
I don't know if you caught the report that we played just before I came to speak to you, Joel, and there was a lady there saying, where should we go? Should we throw ourselves in the sea? Where are people going? It's a shame. I think we've lost Joel there for a moment. We will, if we can, go back to him, but we seem to have lost that connection. In the meantime, we're going to stay within the region and speak to our correspondent in Jerusalem, Amir Nada, who joins us now. Amir, I was just referring there to John Donnison's report, and he'd mentioned how divisive this particular part of the war and the plan by Mr. Netanyahu has been in the country. just expand that for us, if you could.
Well, in the run-up to the decision, we saw this rare outburst of serving and indeed former security officials, military chiefs, calling on Prime Minister Netanyahu not to make this decision to go into the Gaza city, to conquer it, to force out 1 million Palestinians. We saw them mostly articulate that in the form of the danger that it could pose to hostages. We saw over 500 former security chiefs talk about the damage that it could also cause to Israel's reputation internationally. Opposition leaders have said the same thing, talking about the possibility that Israeli hostages are being held around Gaza.
There's a poll that was conducted by RMG August 5th, 2025. If Netanyahu visits the U.S., should the U.S. arrest him? 46% said yes, 32% said no, 22% unsure. We got a lot of work to do, folks. That 22% needs to be, that 22% needs to go up to the yes bracket ASAP.
It's believed that's the case. Their lives could be in danger. We know that Hamas previously has said that should Israeli troops come near to places that Israeli captives are being held, that their captors have been given orders to them. Hostage families are, of course, extremely distressed, saying that this plan is essentially for their families, for their relatives who remain captive in the Gaza Strip. Then the announcement came yesterday morning, and we saw from the chief of staff of the Israeli military, who had, it was widely known, had been a vocal critic of the plan. We saw him publicly stating that there is now unity with the government. The Israeli military will carry out this plan. They presented this unified front, and we've seen the government really reassert and sort of double down on its language, hardening its language in the face of so much international and indeed domestic criticism. With the Minister of Defense yesterday evening.
Channel 12 said that they need 250,000 reservists to permanently militarily occupy the Gaza Strip. 250,000. They're so cooked. First of all, only 30% is habitable. Only 30% of the strip is even habitable. Okay? The rest of the strip is completely destroyed. But even then, 250,000, like, they don't have that. They, I don't think, have the capabilities of maintaining interior security, an occupation in the West Bank, and an occupation in Gaza, especially with the militant resistance that already exists, the network of resistance that already exists in Gaza after a decade plus of infrastructure development of the sort. So if they can't do it, I guess it's anti-Semitic if we don't actually draft to send some American troops over there. You know what I mean? Some real anti-Semitic statements coming out of people who say, like, oh, we can't, I don't want to go and serve in Israel. What are Israel's genocidal occupation? Unacceptable, you know?
Saying that all of this condemnation internally, externally, the threats of sanctions on Israel, none of this will weaken our resolve. So there isn't really any sense that this huge international pressure on Israel and on Prime Minister Netanyahu's government will do anything to shift their thinking over this very dramatic and severe plan that they've announced.
Okay. Amir, Nada, thank you very much for that. Thank you.
The announcement also sparking a series of reactions from the international community. Germany saying that it will actually be suspending arm exports to Israel for use in Gaza, with calls growing from numerous European and Middle Eastern nations for Israel to simply scrap the plan altogether. For more on Germany's announcement, then, we're going to cross to our correspondent in Berlin, Nick Holdsworth. Hi, Nick. So, I mean, this marks a pretty significant reversal of German policy.
I'm confused. I thought Germany wasn't actually giving weapons to Israel. What happened? I guess they were, huh? How did Germany outflank AOC? I mean, AOC doesn't want offensive weapons going to Israel either, and Germany doesn't, I guess, provide defensive weapons. So they're suspending arms exports because it's all offensive weapons anyway. If that's what you, I mean, that's most likely the equation here, you know? But it doesn't matter. Germany saying, which, by the way, that's a distinction without a difference for me. Okay, I don't think that matters, right? But I will say the fact that even Germany, the biggest Israel dick riding nation out of all the nations with the exception of America, the fact that Germany is also hitting the, this is a bit much, I think. I mean, it's over. It's so done, dude. It's so over. What's happening? Why isn't this working? Oh, here it is. Okay. 80% of the population in Germany has been against Israel's action in Gaza for a year now. Our politicians are deaf. I know. Not only are the politicians deaf, they're not even deaf. They hear the calls, brother. They hear the calls. And their reaction to hearing the calls is literally to forcibly suppress those calls. You got to hear the calls first to be able to forcibly suppress them. You know what I mean? So make no mistake when people say, "Oh, they're deaf to our cries." Like, nah, they're not deaf. They hear it loud and clear. They just want you to shut up. How many images have we seen of like Nazi-ass German police just beating the out of protesters and arresting them?
Towards Israel, how big of a deal is it? How much of an impact can it make at this stage in the war?
This will be a major psychological blow to Israel. Germany has been one of Israel's staunchest supporters over the past 80 years. I mean, basically going back to the foundation of the post-war state in 1949, supporting Israel's right to exist has been, as Friedrich Merz himself said back in June, just before the NATO meeting, a reason of state, a raison d'etat, he said. And the war guilt that has existed in Germany for many years over the Nazi genocide, the final solution they attempted to bring to the...
Interesting. So you don't have any issues calling the Holocaust a genocide. So I guess you just got to wait for the finality, you know? Because they just keep calling what Israel's doing a war. So it led me to assume that they just don't know the term genocide. But here he is using the term. Interesting. So they do know it. It's just they're not applying it.
Jewish people has driven German policy for years. Now it's quite apparent.
I'm watching today's VOD, and why are you so dismissive? I don't know why they were chirping last week when I was at plans. I had POC on my stream. Like we literally used the Jam Boys present on your stream, the shield of criticism. Do you think that there's a certain point where you have to realize that like I'm friends with a lot of people and that this is perhaps like the most psychotic interpretation that you could have ever fucking imagined? Okay. And then you hit a buy at the end of it too. There's got to be a point where you go, I actually was wrong. Like I actually was being a weirdo, but instead you chose, you know what you chose to do? And then immediately there's dumb. They go, they're kind of right to be honest. Okay, you know what? I'm going to ban all of them. Okay, there it is. Bozos. Okay, boom, boom, boom. Anyone else want it? Who else wants it? Who else wants it? Who else? Bro, you know you can't make everyone like you. Do your thing. No, I know. But if that's the type of shit that, if that's the type of time they're on, then why are you banning Hasan? Don't ask questions like that. Let's keep going.
Israel has stepped over a red line. There's been growing public dismay at what's been going on in Gaza, people seeing starving children, innocent civilians being shot or blown apart by bombs every day for months and months now. And finally, it looks like the German government has really taken a massive step in German terms and said, that's enough. We agree with Israel's aims to disarm Hamas. We agree that they should release the hostages. But as Friedrich Merz said, the German government believes that even tougher military action in the Gaza Strip decided upon by the Israeli cabinet last night makes it increasingly difficult to see how those goals can be achieved. And he added, under these circumstances, the German government will not approve any exports of military equipment.
The Jewish Voice for Peace is considered an extremist organization in Germany, is monitored by the secret police. See, this is the type of stuff that I don't understand. Because, like, on the one hand, they're doing this stuff where they're like, you know what? Okay, maybe the people have a point, right? Maybe we should, I don't know, scale back on the weapons that we're sending to Israel because they're doing genocide with them. But then also, on the other hand, they're still repressing as aggressively as possible any person that looks at the situation and calls it out for what it actually is. That's what really weirds me out about it. Like, on the one hand, this kid starver is like, yeah, we're going to do Palestinian state recognition. On the other hand, they prescribed Palestine Action as a terrorist organization and literally arrested hundreds of people just the other day in England for the crime of protesting against Israel's genocide. So what is it? It just like doesn't make sense. On the one hand, you're arresting these. On the other hand, you're like, but they're right. These people that we're arresting, they're actually right. And we should take some action. It's just we don't like their vibes. And we don't like how forceful they are with these demands. It genuinely feels like, yeah, 450 people were arrested in London today. Okay?